What's up everyone, welcome back to another POV analysis. Today we're going to be looking at HeRoMaRinE, aka Big Gabe. Arguably had the best run of his career at the global finals. And we're going to see how he beat so many top players. Now first of all, he's going to go up against Zest. I think he had some really interesting builds here. I didn't see them myself yet, but I heard, which makes this even more interesting. I already see an SCV moving out here. So this is definitely nothing too crazy these days, because I feel like every Terran in TVP is doing real proxies, fake proxies and all that. And this looks to be a fake proxy as well. Yeah, I always forget to turn those back on for some reason. There we go, he's gonna fake proxy. I would expect... it's also a really early gateway going down by Zest, by the way, I just noticed. I know we're not looking at Zest, but this definitely looks like something very cheesy coming up. Or maybe that's just a normal Korean build that I'm unaware of. I guess we'll find out soon. So HeRoMaRinE is going to go for that proxy barracks here, followed by 2 gases. Honestly, I never see this build done any different. When they do fake proxy, it's always the barracks first and then the 2 gases. I guess there probably used to be some all-ins, right? Where you would maybe go for like gas first, or... I don't know, I feel like if people off-race, maybe they would fake proxy with just 1 gas and then go into an expand. It's actually very interesting watching people off-race Terran, because then you get to see really crazy stuff. But for here... HeRoMaRinE just gonna go for the standard fake proxy. Dude, I actually got scared a bit. I don't know if you guys ever have this, but when you proxy a barracks and like one of the freaking critters shows up, I always get scared thinking I've been scouted. And this is actually a very interesting moment, by the way, because here Zest looked like he was about to proxy Stargate, but then he ran into HeRoMaRinE's proxy, giving away his second probe. So now they're both very aware of each other's strategies, but this seems to favor HeRoMaRinE a lot, because fake proxying, honestly... it's pretty normal. Like, you're supposed to macro out of this for the most part. Proxy Void Ray though, not as much, and now he knows. And now Zest is gonna have to do a very awkward transition. Wouldn't be surprised if he just pops down a Stargate here at this point. So HeRoMaRinE is just gonna go for the 1 Reaper. And then fly straight back into the main. It's actually making a second barracks. Very interesting. I'm starting to wonder if this is a reaction or not, because... you know, he did see Zestis on 1 base, and I doubt... like, to be fair, HeRoMaRinE is not the kind of guy to do a lot of 1 base all-ins. He likes his pushes. If I had to describe his style, I would say he likes the most 3 base all-ins. Sometimes he does really strong 2 base all-ins as well. But it's mostly 3 base all-ins. So to see him go for 2 barracks and 1 factory on 1 base, it does feel a little bit crazy. As you can see, he's scouting around a lot with an extra SCV, as well as the Reaper. He hasn't made any unit besides those yet. He's going for 2 barracks, 1 starport, and a factory on 1 base. Just actually going for that 1 base Stargate, like I said. Now I wonder how this is gonna look like for Gabe. Because Gabe is clearly gonna have to go 1 base all in from this. Though, to be fair, from Gabe's point of view, he does, right? But if you look at how late Zest Nexus is, I wouldn't even be surprised if Gabe would even just be able to pop down a natural, honestly. I really doubt he's going to, because Gabe is a very logical player. And I really don't think he would go for 2 barracks, 1 factory, 1 starport expand. But I guess you never know. I kind of expected him to make stim from this, actually, instead of a starport. Like, maybe like a 3-racks kind of thing. Let's see. Ooh, Gabe is a bit of a scroller. I just saw him scroll over the map. Caught in 4K. I mean, I do the same. Playing pretty fast. What do you think his APM is? 300 exactly. Wow, that's efficiency right there, guys. 300 average APM exactly. That's beautiful. So he went for 1 Cyclone, 1 Viking, I believe. No, just 1 Cyclone, then 1 Medevac into the tanks. I imagine he's gonna pull SCVs with this as well. I do think 1 base all-ins are very cool against Protoss, because they are so incredibly uncommon that when you do them, I feel like the chance that it works at least like the first time or the first few times is pretty high. Now, Korean Terrans are generally a bit more crazy, so I feel like Zest is probably more used to this than European Protoss players. He's gonna rally Vikings behind. No SCVs have been pulled yet. Let's see. Okay, there we go. 4 SCVs. The timing looks to be a bit unfortunate for HeRoMaRinE here, because those Oracles are gonna find an undefended mineral line. Does pull the Cyclone back. Really good move. Doesn't quite micro the Cyclone, though. Okay, so he takes that down. But he did get a lot of damage on the Oracle. Zest obviously microing well. But at the same time... oh, the Viking pops just in time. I didn't even see that. That's really good timing on that. At the same time, obviously, HeRoMaRinE cannot stop. And what does Zest have at home? Nothing? Okay, he has 3 slow zealots, 2 stalkers, and 1 sentry. And HeRoMaRinE is 2 tanks with a few SCVs. Now what Zest is doing is the right mover is making the Void Rays. Without the Void Ray, honestly I feel like Zest would have no shot. But Void Rays against this are really strong. If you ever get a Void Ray next to a battery, they can easily gun down a tank just like that. So Gabe is going to siege this very methodically. Getting closer and closer to the ramp. Ideally he gets in range of the batteries. I think this tank is barely not in range of the battery. Now he's actually going up the ramp. This is really scary because one battery could honestly just be the end of this. There we go, the overcharge is popped. Good target fire on those tanks, by the way. If those tanks would be shooting the zealots, every unit here would die for free. But it does look like HeRoMaRinE was a little bit too overzealous. Losing a lot of units by pushing up that ramp. And here we go, the Void Ray gets on top of the tank. Kills the Viking as well. And this was honestly a little bit of a disaster for HeRoMaRinE. But since this attack is still going, that shows how good of a strategy this was against what Zest is doing. Because, yeah, that was a disaster. And this still seems like it has a lot of hope. Zest is supply blocked as well. After losing that Nexus, another Viking arriving. At home, Gabe has made nothing new. Hasn't even made SCVs up until this point. He just started one and then cancelled it. Good lift micro there by HeRoMaRinE. But Zest is going to get to a lot of Void Rays. Like, his Void Ray count is getting a little bit high. Now, keep in mind, Zest has 34 probes. So what that means is that Zest could actually pull 10 probes with his attack. So even though Gabe has a few SCVs here, you do also have to calculate in that Zest should have 10 probes with his army when they fight. Okay. For a second I thought HeRoMaRinE was going to back off, but he's going to stay in the front. This is going to attack into this. He does have the batteries here, and this is what I'm talking about. Void Rays in range of the battery. Tank goes down instantly. Viking goes down eventually. And now what is HeRoMaRinE going to do? Without tanks, he just doesn't really have a lot of staying power. It looks like he's going to have to back off here. Targets the really good micro there. Actually saves the Cyclone, picks it up. It's going to kill both of the Void Rays as well. Definitely not what I expected. I thought that was going to be another disaster for HeRoMaRinE, but he does pick up both the Void Rays. And honestly, since there's no blink, there's no charge or anything, the Void Rays are 90% of the power of Zest army at this point. HeRoMaRine's going to pull back. I feel like this is one of the things HeRoMaRinE is really good at. Like, he does not make weird mistakes with overstaying too long. Like, he's so good at pushing. I feel like his pushes are usually executed very well. I feel like here he actually could have done a little bit better with his initial attack, especially. But now this pullback is very well done. Like, he doesn't have a lot of Marines. If you get swarmed with this, you probably just lose. I was going to do a drop in the main. This looks kind of funny because there's like 4 batteries here. Oh, that Void Ray timing is disgusting. Is he going to lose that? No way. Okay. This battery's not overcharged. Is he going to lose the Void Ray? Oh my god, that's actually... That's honestly, I think that's worth it. I think he killed 1 Stalker, 1 Void Ray, and... 2 probes? For 1 Marine drop, it sounds not worth it, but I legit think any Void Ray that's off the field makes this so much easier. Like, don't forget this is 3 siege tanks. I mean, and you know, this is a POV analysis, and I would go on the HeRoMaRiNE's point of view, but at the same time, I do wonder how much there is to see when they're both on one basis, making units and running into each other, right? I have to say, I'm a little bit surprised that Gabe is doing so well in that game, because after the first push went so wrong, where he lost the 8 Marines up the ramp to the slow Zealots, you would kind of imagine that the push falls apart a little bit, right? Like, this is a 1-base all-in with no follow-up, there's no stim. So I'm really surprised that Gabe is actually still in this game. Like, if you look at the army supply, Gabe is up by 8. I know his economy is in shambles, but keep in mind, there's no natural for Zest, so at the same time, their economy is relatively even. Look at this Marine micro by Gabe. Very well done. It looks small, but because of the Marine drop micro, Zest wasn't able to just right-click all the SCVs, had to focus on the Marines, and thus probably killed 3 less SCVs as a result. So what Gabe here is doing at this point is he's just regrouping his army. With Terran, when you push, a lot of it is just about having the exact right amount of units to attack, like finding the perfect timing. So Gabe here just wants to get as many siege tanks as he can, make sure he has enough Marines to deal with the amount of Void Rays that Zest can have, and then he can go back in. A lot of times, if you would just rally across, you're just not going to hit at the right timing. There will be too many Void Rays for the Marines to handle, stuff like that, and then you're instantly in trouble. So now Gabe, I think he has 5 siege tanks with this. Let's see. 5 siege tanks, which is honestly an incredible amount. 21 Marines. And yeah, I think Zest, if he had charge here, I would honestly feel like he might have a shot. Without charge, not so much. Really good snipe on that siege tank though. You can see HeRoMaRinE has his priority straight. He's losing units on the map. but he doesn't give a damn about it at all. He's just pushing forward. He's in range of the batteries as well, which makes it scary for Zest. Zest does not really want to attack into this, but if he loses the batteries, he will not be able to do anything anyway. Like, the army supply is the same, but Gabe definitely has the better army here. Those 4 tanks on the low ground will shell anything that tries to come near. The only thing that doesn't die instantly is the Zealots, pretty much. The slow Zealots are going to be key here, but does he have enough? Zest is going to go in here before warping in 4 more Zealots. That seems like a bit of a mistake. 2 Stalkers coming in from the back, but there's just too many units for Gabe. And honestly, I feel like this was kind of a miracle win here for HeRoMaRinE. At least I can't imagine Zest winning this anymore. Yeah, that was just fantastic. I like, especially how rough it started. How many good moves Zest made. Like, look at the worker count. There's 4 SCVs left. Gabe still managed to clutch this one out. And that's it for game number 1. GG. And here's game number 2 between these 2 titans. HeRoMaRinE in the top right. Zest in the bottom left. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, I doubt HeRoMaRinE is going to go for a 1-base sell-in again. Would be pretty cool, to be honest. Would definitely be pretty cool. If he could beat Zest with something like that. For a second, looked like he was going for another fake proxy, but he's going to take it easy for now. Zest also not going with the 12 pylon again like he did last game. I wonder how awkward that game must have been for Zest. Like, keep in mind that last game he actually started wanting to proxy Void Ray, and then there's literally a barrack standing where he wants to build a Stargate, and he's like, oh, and then he goes 1-base Oracle. Like, that was definitely quite the game. I still wonder if that was intentional by HeRoMaRinE, or not intentional. I mean, like, if it was a counter to the 1-base play that Zest did, or if he was planning to just 1-base all in anyway. Because like I said, those builds are not very popular, and HeRoMaRinE, even though he does have cool builds, he does... Like, he is a very logical player, right? So he would only do builds if he really thinks they're good, or if they really counter the opponent. And I can't imagine that he thinks that... You know, a 1-base sell-in against Protoss is, like, generally good. Which makes me believe in turn that he did do it as a counter to what Zest did. Now, HeRoMaRinE here is going to go for a fast wall. This is a very cool build, very cool mind game build. You wall off the main base fast, but as you can see, there's no second gas. So this is actually just going to be a Reaper expand or a Marine expand, whichever one it's going to be. But Zest kind of has to treat this like this could be a 1-base sell-in once again. Very good prepared mind game there by HeRoMaRinE. I mean, it could also be spontaneous, you know. Like, he figured last game I beat him with a 1-base sell-in, now I can fake it. The Marine finishes probably a CC first, could be a factory as well. Looks like it's going to be the command center though. Actually going to get that probe. That's a pretty big deal as well. I mean, Protoss has pretty good scouting either way with their adept, right? But still, keeping Protoss in the dark for a little bit more is good. Sometimes they could use the probe to scout around for some proxies, right? So if Zest would want to do that now, you would have to send out another probe, which cost a lot of money. So he went for the factory and then the reactor. I do wonder what build he's going to do after this. Like, so far, I like this build. I like the strategy behind this. These days, when you see a fake 1-base attack into an expand, is usually a 2-on-1. There is actually the second barracks. Alright. Personally, I always did this build with a Reaper first. Now, what Zest is doing here, I really like. This is a pretty good counter from Protoss POV. If you're not sure what's going on, you can make a sentry. And then you can scout very easily with hallucination. Pretty much get a 100% guaranteed scout. And not have to worry about anything else. Very interesting is that Zest is going for a 3-gate to counter this. So this means that he doesn't have any tech. There's no blink coming, there's no Stargate. This is quite literally an hallucination scout. With 3 gates behind it. And I feel like the 3-gate do kind of tell me that Zest bought the fake. At the same time, Gabe is actually going to go for Hellions here, which feels a little bit insane. Yeah, like Hellions, if you're faking a 1-base sell-in and your opponent's going to probably make a few more units, Hellions is probably not quite the units you want. Oh, the action is going to start, so let's actually look at this game from Gabe's POV here. So he's going to go for 2 Hellions, which could honestly be a semi-fake, and then go into the 2-on-1. Like, so far, to me, this series has been one massive mind game. Like, the first game with the crazy 1-base sell-in, but also this game. The fake 1-base into the expand, into the Hellions, but at the same time playing some kind of 2-on-1. Here we go, the Hellions are going to go in, find a lot of Stalkers. And now I wonder what HeRoMaRinE thinks. Does he realize that this is a 3-gate before, or does he think this is just a normal blink opener? Like, especially if you play weird builds. they kind of mess with the timings in the game a little bit. And then it becomes really hard to read what's going on. Like, if I did this build wildly on the ladder and I would meet 3 Stalkers, I would not be able to see that it's a 3 gate or if it's just a regular blink opener. I would not know. And Zest is actually following this up with a Colossus drop, perhaps. At least there's a Warp Prism and a Robot. It could still be a Stalker drop, followed by Colossus. Actually, I do say I kind of like this build. And this makes me more interested, because typically when I play this style, Colossus is like the last thing I want to face, because you want to do a lot of pushes. And pushes generally get shot down pretty hard by Colossus, unless you have a lot of siege tanks. So now I definitely want to see how HeRoMaRinE deals with this as well. Let's look at the setup of Zest real quick. So yeah, he just has 3 gates, a Robo, 4 gases. Doesn't look like he has an intention to take a 3rd base yet. He did make 2 sentries early, which could always help with a push. And now he's gonna move out with this Prism. Now let's see how HeRoMaRinE deals with this. I feel like he has enough units, but a lot of times in StarCraft having the right units doesn't matter that much. You still need to use them right as well. But he does have Stim here. Let's see, Zest picks off a Marine, SCV. And HeRoMaRinE stimmed there trying to get the Prism, but Zest honestly very good at micro typically, so he got away no problem. Now, oh, this is actually, I have to compliment Zest here for this. This is actually awesome. Zest hallucinated a Phoenix just in case HeRoMaRinE would leave with the drop and he could go back instantly. And now he can also do something like recall. Like, that was honestly an awesome move by Zest. I feel like that's a very high level move you won't usually see from any Protoss. But that was super well prepared. He didn't make an Observer because he made the Prism first. And then he actually used his early sentries to keep an Hallucinations in place, just in case. Not even to scout it right away, but just in case. Now there's a Colossus finish, battery in the main. Yeah, I have to admit, guys, you know, we're here to praise Gabe, probably. But this was honestly a pretty awesome sequence of moves by Zest as well. And this is when HeRoMaRiNE's strengths are going to have to kick in. Because, like I said, HeRoMaRiNE is insanely good at pushes. So right now, he's honestly finding himself a little bit behind. Zest killed 13 workers with the Prism. He has Colossus already. Charge is not quite out yet. It just started, in fact. But still, he should have that ready. And now HeRoMaRiNE is going to have to show one of his nuts pushes to be able to clutch this one out, I think. Zest is actually getting Warp Prism speed. That's probably the first move I didn't really like here. Feels a bit unnecessary at this point. Might as well add a bunch more gateways and stuff, if I'm honest. Let's see. HeRoMaRiNE is actually sneaking here. Zest sees it coming with the Watchtower, but I'm not sure if he's going to be fast enough to actually save this 3rd base. I mean, one Colossal swipe on these Marines kills all of them almost instantly, so he does have to get out of there. Keep in mind that Zest does not have Blink. And Stalkers without Blink are literally 20 times worse, it feels like. Ooh, it's a bit of a misstep by Zest there. Obviously, he didn't know there were 2 tanks waiting there to show on that Colossus. You can see HeRoMaRiNE is actually making Vikings. I feel like if you make Vikings on 2 base, you're really saying, this is an all-in. I'm not going to do anything else after this, because Vikings, honestly, guys, are so expensive. Yeah, you just cannot really afford these while trying to macro up for the most part. For Vikings, you can make them so fast, but typically they're a late game unit just for that. Like, a round of Vikings is 300 minerals, guys. You see, Gabe is honestly struggling to afford anything else with the money he has just because he's making 2 Vikings at the same time. The Vikings are a really good counter, though, against the Speed Prism here. Like, Prisms like this can actually get so much damage done. You saw it earlier, the 4 Stalker drop getting 13 SCVs. The reason I'm not on Gabe's POV, by the way, is because he's moving around a little bit too frantically. And it's making me dizzy, so... And now I see HeRoMaRiNE going out for the push. Now Zest, actually... Okay, here's the Observer. I was afraid he was not going to scout that at all. But he does scout this. You know, when I watch the games from the Terran POV, I always hope that the Protoss makes like 0 mistakes and then the Terran still wins, you know? Because then it feels like what he did was extra good and copyable. Now let's see how this goes. He has 2 Colossus. He is going out very far here, Zest is. This is very, very brave. Honestly, probably a little bit too brave. Both the Colossus pretty much on 1 HP already. Good micro. Keeps both of them alive. Not the second one. Now he loses the Prism and both Colossus. And yeah, honestly, guys, I think Zest had a good chance to hold this, but he has completely messed this up. And HeRoMaRiNE winning in a very HeRoMaRiNE fashion here. I mean, there's no Colossus on the way, I believe. So there's honestly no way Zest can salvage this. Maybe if he had 1 Colossus, he could try the micro. But just like that, Zest made a massive blunder. going out with his units. Gabe having the right amount of Vikings, getting the Prism and the units combined. I guess he does have 2 Archons on the way. Archons honestly can always help you survive in front of a battery. Like, Gabe still needs to be a little bit careful here. Like, this looks like an easy A move. But honestly, if you go too deep here against Archons and Zealots... But to be fair, if he does wait out that turbo overcharge... he can totally kill him still. Now, the Archons are going in. That was a really good engagement for Zest because all the Bayous were on the front. Immortals are going ham as well. And Zest is kind of breaking through here, but not really. Tank is gonna go down. Keep in mind the battery still has energy because it was used in an overcharge. But yeah, HeRoMaRinE still with a massive push. I guess he never actually transitioned at home. Still just on 3 barracks with that 1 factory and that 1 starport. I feel like they both got very overzealous here actually. Like HeRoMaRinE felt like he had to win in the back, but then he was stimming into the natural. Letting the Archons get massive splash on his units. But Zest, of course... Honestly, I feel bad for Zest because he was playing such a good game, but then he made a massive blunder by just going out there and pretty much just giving away his units. Giving away the Prism to Colossus and, yeah, honestly completely handing the game to HeRoMaRinE in just 1 instance there. Now, this looks like Zest is pushing him back, but in reality, all HeRoMaRinE really has to do at this point is gather back up his army, group it together, and then he should be able to win pretty convincingly from there. Like, you see the supply lead. Sometimes, against Protoss, you just need to regroup your army. If you play in very little amounts of units, like if you move around with like 10-20 Bayou units, there's always the chance that you get owned by just 1 Warpin of Zealots. But once you get your entire army together, Protoss also needs their entire army there. And that's when HeRoMaRinE should be able to win this game, when he attacks. Maybe even with SCVs, to be honest. I do really like that Zest is getting stormed. That's like pretty much the one thing that could salvage this game. You would say DTs as well, but DTs feel very obvious. I honestly would not be surprised at all, and I would in fact really like it if HeRoMaRinE just dropped a turret in each base at this point. Zest did have really nice harassment in this game. This is the kind of harassment you would normally see from a Terran player, right, with the drops. But Zest definitely did a good job with that. Now HeRoMaRinE taking his 3rd base means he's effectively going to double Zest economy in a little bit because Zest is going to be mining this out. It's actually not mining from his gases for... absolutely no reason here. That is a little bit of a mistake for sure. Literally missing a full base of mining. I heard a Liberator harass. I didn't even see it somehow. I guess it must have been here. How many workers were killed this game? 17 by Zest, 6 by HeRoMaRinE, yeah. And you can see HeRoMaRinE is playing it very safe. Obviously, this was a massive tournament, guys, and a massive match in the group. I know that if HeRoMaRinE attacks him properly, he would win, but he's going to go for the ghost and stuff, which is fine. Now Zest, this is actually where the Speed Prism came into play for the first time. The Storm Drop here came in very fast. HeRoMaRinE microing back perfectly low, and this is just not a fight Zest can win. And just like that, guys, with honestly 2 comebacks, HeRoMaRinE is going to take the 2-0 over Zest. Very impressive pushes. Once again, I do have to admit that it felt like Zest handed it a little bit to him there with that disastrous engagement. But even then, the push looked very strong, and maybe it would have worked anyway. Alright guys, hope you guys enjoyed this cast/POV analysis. It was a little bit of both. Make sure to sub and like the video. And I'll see you guys next time. Adios.